At precisely 6:45 a.m., Sophie Hayes walked into the expansive lobby of Jacobs Industries. The glass walls reflected the soft, muted glow of the early morning light. The sharp click of her heels echoed across the marble floor, the only sound breaking the peaceful stillness. This was her favorite time of day, a brief sanctuary of quiet before the whirlwind of work consumed everything. Sophie was no stranger to hard work. Born into a modest family in Seattle, she had fought her way through every challenge life threw at her. Armed with a degree in business administration from Stanford, she had earned her position as executive assistant to Ryan Jacobs, the enigmatic and powerful CEO of Jacobs Industries. At 32, Ryan was a force to be reckoned with in the business world. Under his leadership, Jacobs Industries had become a tech giant, pioneering innovations that set the standard for competitors. However, Ryan was also known for his cold demeanor and rigid professionalism. He maintained a strict distance from everyone, rarely showing even the slightest vulnerability. Despite working closely with him every day, Sophie still found him to be an enigma. He was always composed, unreadable, yet in rare moments she caught glimpses of something more. A fleeting look in his eyes, a subtle sigh, but she quickly pushed those thoughts aside. Little did Sophie know the events about to unfold would shatter the status quo, turning her world and her relationship with Ryan Jacobs upside down. Sophie quickly settled at her desk on the executive floor and powered on her computer. She skimmed through the packed schedule for the day: 3 board meetings, 2 virtual conferences with international partners, and a crucial contract negotiation for the company's Asian market expansion, one of the largest deals of the year. No room for error, she murmured to herself, reviewing the reports one more time. The warm light of dawn streamed through the massive windows, softening the sterile chill of the office air conditioning. But before she could dive further into her work, the elevator chimed softly. Right on time, Ryan Jacobs stepped out. He exuded a quiet but commanding presence, the kind that turned heads even without a single word. He moved swiftly toward his office, his pace steady and purposeful, until his deep, authoritative voice broke the silence. "Morning briefing." It wasn't a request, it was a command. Sophie immediately grabbed her tablet and followed him into his office, matching his long strides with ease. "The board meeting has been moved to 8:30 at Mr. Grant's request," she reported. "The market expansion projections are ready, and legal has flagged several points that require your attention before this afternoon's negotiation." Ryan's expression tightened at the mention of Richard Grant, a board member notorious for challenging his authority. "Grant again," he muttered under his breath. "He's trying to throw me off balance." He exhaled sharply and loosened his tie, a rare gesture of frustration. "What else?" Ryan asked, his sharp gaze locking onto Sophie. Sophie hesitated for a brief moment before speaking carefully. "Your father called this morning. He mentioned something about your mother." The atmosphere shifted instantly. Ryan froze. His eyes darkened, and his fingers, which had been typing moments earlier, stilled on the keyboard. His knuckles whitened for a second before he released a controlled breath. "Delete the message," he said coldly. "Of course, Mr. Jacobs," Sophie replied smoothly, making a quick note on her tablet. In 2 years of working closely with him, Sophie had learned to read the unspoken language of Ryan Jacobs. The tension in his eyes spoke volumes, far more than any words ever could. "Sophie, you have to come out tonight. You're turning into a work machine," Madison, Sophie's best friend, texted her with a mix of humor and exasperation. Sophie glanced at the clock. It was nearly 7 p.m., and the office was eerily quiet except for the faint glow of her computer screen. When was the last time she went out with friends? She sighed, closed her tablet, and typed back, "All right, I'm on my way." An hour later, Sophie and Madison stood on the rooftop of a trendy bar. Warm string lights illuminated the space, casting a golden glow over the sleek glass railings that framed a stunning view of the Manhattan skyline. A cool autumn breeze rustled through Sophie's hair as she took in the scene. "Finally, you've escaped the office," Madison laughed, raising her glass in a toast. "You're right," Sophie admitted with a chuckle, taking a sip of her cocktail. "Ryan even told me to find a better work-life balance." Madison nearly choked on her drink. "Wait, Ryan Jacobs? The Ice King? He talked about work-life balance?" "Yep, I was just as surprised as you are," Sophie said, smiling, but her smile faded when she noticed Madison's eyes widening, fixed on something behind her. "Sophie, look who just walked in," Madison whispered, nudging her gently. Sophie turned and felt her heart momentarily stop. Ryan Jacobs had just entered the bar. Gone was the formal, polished look she was so used to. In its place, he wore dark jeans and a fitted charcoal sweater, exuding a relaxed yet effortlessly commanding presence. But it wasn't just Ryan that caught her attention. Walking beside him was Vanessa Grant, her arm resting lightly on his as she laughed at something he said. Vanessa was a prominent figure in the business world and a woman the board had been pushing to form a business partnership, and possibly more, with Ryan. "Isn't that Vanessa Grant?" Madison whispered conspiratorially. "I heard the board is trying to set them up for some mega business alliance." Sophie inhaled slowly, forcing herself to look away. "It's none of my business," she said firmly. Madison smirked. "Sure." Still, Sophie's eyes betrayed her as they sought Ryan in the crowd. Their gazes met across the room, and for a moment the world seemed to slow. Ryan held her stare before making his way over to the bar where she stood. "Didn't expect to see you here," Ryan said, his voice low but unmistakably clear. "Quite the coincidence," Sophie replied, fighting to keep her composure. They began to chat, their conversation guarded at first. But as the minutes passed, Ryan opened up, sharing his frustrations about the constant pressures from the board. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. The tension softened into something warmer, something neither of them could deny. The alcohol coursed through their veins, softening the world around them and creating an almost magnetic pull between them. Sophie could feel the warmth rushing to her cheeks as Ryan's gaze locked onto hers. This wasn't the usual distant, business-like stare she knew. His eyes were deeper, softer, yet laced with a possessiveness and longing that sent shivers down her spine. Neither of them spoke, but their eyes communicated all the unspoken words between them. Sophie realized with startling clarity that, no matter how much she tried to deny it, the intensity between them could no longer be ignored. Ryan tilted his head slightly, as if gauging her reaction. She didn't look away, holding his gaze with a small, almost knowing smile. "Sophie," he murmured her name, low and intimate, like it was the most natural thing in the world. A moment later, they left the bar. Ryan offered to take her home, and Sophie didn't refuse. They walked into the sleek, modern lobby of the hotel where Ryan was staying during his time in the city. No more words were necessary. The moment the door to his suite closed behind them, Ryan pulled her into his arms, his lips crashing down onto hers in a kiss that was both desperate and tender. Every barrier they had built between them shattered. His touch was gentle yet charged with a suppressed hunger as his hands explored the curves of her body. Sophie clung to him, surrendering to the fire that had been smoldering between them for so long. They moved together as if seeking to erase the boundaries between their worlds. Work, ambition, expectations. All of it dissolved in the heat of the moment. That night they became one, lost in a storm of passion and connection. The next morning, the soft glow of dawn filtered through the curtains, casting a gentle light across Sophie's peaceful face. She was still fast asleep, her breathing slow and steady. Ryan had woken earlier and lay quietly beside her, simply watching her for a while. She looked serene, her features softened in sleep. Ryan couldn't help but smile slightly, taking in the sight of her. For the first time in what felt like forever, he felt something stir inside him. Something more profound than the cold drive for success that had governed his life. Reaching out, he gently brushed a stray strand of hair from her cheek. Leaning down, he pressed a soft kiss to her skin, a silent expression of affection that he hadn't yet found the words for. Sophie stirred slightly but didn't fully wake. Ryan stood, moving quietly to leave the room. His mind was a tangle of emotions, unfamiliar yet undeniable. One thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. In the weeks that followed, Sophie noticed strange changes in her body. She frequently felt nauseous in the mornings and was more fatigued than usual. At first, she attributed it to work stress, but when her period was late, an uneasy suspicion crept in. One early morning, Sophie sat silently in her bathroom, staring at the pregnancy test in her trembling hands. Two bright lines appeared unmistakably. She took a shaky breath, her heart pounding in disbelief. "I'm pregnant," she whispered, as if saying it aloud would make it more real. She wasn't sure how to process the situation. On one hand, this was a deeply personal matter, yet it involved complications that went far beyond her control, especially given the uncertain nature of her relationship with Ryan Jacobs. But before she could figure out her next steps, things quickly spiraled out of control. A photo of her and Ryan leaving his hotel together that morning found its way to gossip sites. The headline screamed, "Jacobs Industries CEO in secret romance with employee." The story spread like wildfire, igniting a PR crisis for the company. As Sophie read the headline, her hands trembled. Her mind raced, a wave of anxiety crashing over her. How did this happen? What would the board say? She knew that one photo could destroy not only her career, but also the fragile connection she and Ryan had just begun to build. Within a day, the board of directors convened an emergency meeting. Richard Grant, Vanessa's uncle and a senior board member, confronted Ryan head-on. "Do you have any idea how much this scandal is damaging the company?" Richard demanded, his tone sharp and accusatory. "Our Asian partners are already expressing concerns about the stability of our leadership." Ryan remained composed, his gaze icy. "That photo proves nothing beyond two employees leaving after working late. Any other interpretation is unfounded speculation." Richard smirked. "Oh, but the media doesn't care about facts. The stock price has taken a major hit, and the board believes the best solution is to transfer Ms. Hayes to our London branch for the time being to quiet the rumors." Sophie felt her throat tighten as the words sank in. Ryan, however, immediately pushed back. "No. Sophie is crucial to our market expansion project. I won't allow her to be removed over baseless gossip," he said firmly. The tension in the room was palpable as arguments flew back and forth. After the meeting ended, Ryan pulled Sophie into his office. "Basically trying to separate us to regain control," Ryan said, his voice laced with frustration. "But I won't let that happen. If I have to, I'll resign." "You can't do that," Sophie whispered, worry clouding her eyes. "The company's future depends on you." "It doesn't matter anymore," Ryan said resolutely. "I'm not letting anyone dictate my life, especially when it affects you and the baby." His intense gaze left Sophie momentarily speechless. In that moment, she realized just how far things had escalated and how deeply intertwined their fates had become. While Ryan and Sophie faced increasing pressure from the board and media, Olivia Carter unexpectedly appeared at Ryan's office. She introduced herself as his half-sister, the result of an affair their father, William Jacobs, had kept secret for years. Ryan's eyes narrowed in suspicion. "Why are you here? And why should I believe you?" Remaining composed, Olivia pulled out a USB drive and placed it on the desk. "This contains all the evidence of the financial crimes our father committed. He used Jacobs Industries to launder money through a network of shell companies." Sophie gasped, glancing at Ryan. He remained silent for a moment, his jaw tightening. "I knew he wasn't clean, but I didn't realize it went this far." Olivia continued, her voice steady but serious. "William may be out of sight, but he's not the only one pulling strings. Richard Grant has been deeply involved and is now trying to tighten his grip on the company." Ryan clenched his fists. "Grant's been maneuvering to control me for years. He wants the board under his thumb to protect his interests." Olivia nodded. "Exactly. If you don't act now, he'll throw you under the bus to save himself." The next day at the board meeting, Olivia accompanied Ryan and Sophie. Richard Grant's expression darkened when he saw her enter the room. "This is a private meeting. She has no business here," Richard said, his tone cold and authoritative. "Oh, but I do," Olivia replied calmly. "I'm William Jacobs' daughter, and I have evidence that will expose everything you've been trying to cover up." Richard's eyes narrowed, though he maintained a facade of calm. "What evidence? Baseless accusations?" Ryan didn't let him take control. He rose to his feet, fixing Richard with a steely gaze. "We have proof of over 2 decades of financial fraud tied to Jacobs Industries and several members of this board, including you." Olivia connected the USB to the projector. and a series of incriminating documents appeared on the large screen. Illegal transactions between Jacobs Industries and various shell companies. The room fell into a tense silence as board members whispered nervously among themselves. Richard stood, attempting to regain control. "Ryan, think this through. If you make this public, the company will collapse. Investors will panic." "No," Ryan said firmly. "This company needs to be rebuilt. We can't keep surviving on lies." Moments later, FBI agents entered the boardroom, led by Madison. "We have a warrant to seize documents related to financial fraud at Jacobs Industries," she announced, sending the room into chaos. Richard made one last desperate attempt. "Ryan, don't let emotions cloud your judgment. You'll lose everything." Ryan met his gaze, his voice calm but resolute. "You're wrong. This isn't a loss. It's an opportunity to rebuild properly." As Richard was led away, Olivia approached Ryan and Sophie. "We did it, but this is just the beginning. Now it's time to rebuild from the wreckage." Ryan nodded. He gently squeezed Sophie's hand. In that moment, he knew that with Olivia and Sophie by his side, nothing could stand in their way. 3 months after William Jacobs' downfall and the financial scandal, Jacobs Industries had undergone a complete transformation. The media called it a miraculous rebirth. The company now operated under a new name, Hayes and Carter Innovations, with Sophie as the newly appointed Chief Operating Officer, COO, and Olivia serving as an advisor on the leadership team. Sophie, now 5 months pregnant, stood in front of the mirror in the bathroom of the luxury apartment she shared with Ryan. She gently rested her hand on her rounded belly, smiling as she felt the faint movements of the baby inside. The fear and uncertainty she once carried had been replaced by a deep sense of hope for the future. "Sophie, we're going to be late," Ryan called from the living room. He wore a simple suit but looked as confident and magnetic as ever. "I'm not sure I should go to this meeting," Sophie hesitated. "People will think I only got promoted because of my relationship with you." Ryan walked over and placed his hands gently on her shoulders. "You earned this, Sophie. The board trusts you, and you've proven yourself time and time again. Don't let anyone's gossip make you doubt your worth." At that moment, Olivia walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee and a ginger tea for Sophie. "Relax," Olivia said with a grin. "The press loves our rebirth from crisis story. No one's going to dare say anything negative today." She handed Sophie the tea. The 3 of them entered the boardroom, where the leadership team and directors stood to greet them. The atmosphere was a stark contrast to the tense confrontations of the past. Hope and optimism now filled the room. Ryan began his speech. "Thank you all for your trust during these challenging times. From today onward, we are not just a tech company. We are a beacon of transparency and innovation." Afterward, Sophie stood to deliver a special announcement. She took Ryan's hand, her smile radiant. "We also have some personal news to share. We're expecting our first daughter." The room erupted in cheers and congratulations. Olivia playfully wiped away a tear she wouldn't admit to. "I'm going to be the best aunt ever," she declared, earning laughter from the crowd. After the meeting, Ryan led Sophie to a familiar spot in Central Park. As they reached the iconic bridge decorated with thousands of twinkling lights, Sophie gasped in surprise. Madison, Olivia, and a few close colleagues were waiting for them. Ryan turned to Sophie, his eyes soft and full of emotion. He knelt on one knee and opened a small velvet box, revealing a stunning emerald ring. "Sophie Hayes," he began, his voice steady but full of feeling. "You changed my life. You taught me how to love and trust. You and our child are the greatest things that have ever happened to me. I want to build a future with you, not just for the company, but for our family. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in Sophie's eyes. Smiling, she whispered, "Yes, I will." Their kiss was met with applause and cheers from their friends and loved ones. In the distance, the lights of Manhattan sparkled like a blessing on their new beginning.